All right. Well, as the rest of you guys kind of funnel in, um, we'll just kind of get started kind of slowly. First things first, I'm really excited for you guys to be here for this. Um, I love this section, and I really am excited that Tesla has presented this to us in the aftermarket world. And the reason for that is that one of my main positions when I was with Tesla, I was with them for about 5 years, but I worked as a virtual technician. So we were diagnosing and preparing and ordering parts before these vehicles were coming into service. So we were doing everything on the front line to make sure that when they came in, we were reducing their lead time, reducing their key to key average so that they came in already diagnosed, already had parts order. The technician on the line just had to confirm that my diagnosis and keep rolling. And a lot of that happens with the remote services that they have provided to us. Um, so I when I tell you I geeked out that it came back to us, that's an understatement. It's really exciting for us to have. I think it's a very fundamental tool for us to use in the automotive world, and I'm really hoping to see a lot of other brands kind of like take on what Tesla's been doing and use this and run with it. So couple of things though before we get started. I had one of our sales managers contact me before getting started, and he told me that we had this huge April special going on. Very good special. So what I'm going to teach you guys today is I want to teach you how we can prepare for the vehicles before they come in. But there is still the whole bringing them in and repairing them, getting them programmed, and getting everything completed before we can return them back to the customers. And a lot of that happens with our Opus Drive Pro. Now, our Drive Pro Unlimited is a fantastic tool. It has a great amount of capability behind it, but one thing that is very often not presented well enough is how strong our technicians are on the back end. Those technicians are myself, Brandon Mathews. You'll hear me talk about Marlon Hunter. There are a numerous OE dealer trained technicians that are built into the back end of this tool that provide you support, that can access OE logins, OE softwares, and just have dealer trained experience to help you repair your vehicles. And that's something that comes with our Drive Pro in our monthly subscriptions with the Drive Pro. So retail for the Drive Pro is $5,995. 24-month subscription at $299 a month. That's kind of just like our going rate. Now I've been to a lot of shows with Drive Pros and haven't quite seen a deal like this. All right, I'm just going to be honest. Okay. For April, we are going to offer the Drive Pro at $2,995. Now you got to sign up for a 24-month subscription, $299 a month, which is a quarter of what one OE login is, right? The difference is we're also going to throw in everything that you're going to need to have us help you support your Tesla work. So we are going to include what we call our Tesla bundle kit. And this comes with the diagnostic cables for the Model S and the X, Model 3 and the Y, and the Ethernet cables necessary for the newer brands. So we're going to include this with the purchase of your Drive Pro, so that way you can take what I've taught you today and we can implement it in the future without you guys having to spend all of that money in Tesla Toolbox or sending it off to the dealer to have certain things taken care of. So if you guys are interested, go ahead, scan this QR code. Brandon has also thrown in the purchase link into the chat. There is a promo code that you need to enter, or else they're going to hit you with that 5.9. We want it at the, we want it the 2.9. So take that 3K difference off. I mean, we're literally cutting the price of the Drive Pro in half. So take advantage of it while you can. These two slides will show up at the end of my presentation as well, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you like my webinar, I can guarantee you're going to love listening to Marlon. Marlon is a great guy. I worked with Marlon before he came to Opus, and he is a Toyota and Lexus guru. Super smart. He's going to give you a lot of practical insights into like a lot of live diagnosis. He's going to do a good amount of case studies, some real world scenarios, and he is going to build a very strong webinar. Take an hour of your time to just kind of teach you everything around it. So Marlon will be presenting a webinar Tuesday, May 7th. And then for everyone on the West Coast and for people who like to travel, Brandon and I, Brandon, who's in the chat with me, we are going to be teaching an in-person class on Saturday, May 4th at the Huntington Beach, California location, the bright and sunny Huntington Beach. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend the first hour and a half kind of talking about high voltage safety. We're going to talk about PPE, what you guys need to have at your shop to start preparing yourself to work on hybrids and high voltage vehicles. And then the rest of that is going to be just Tesla service mode. We're going to talk about service information, Diag modes, how to maintain, how to perform all of the maintenance. Going to talk about how to de-energize it. What do you do if you got a tow in? How can you separate your tow ins from a dead vehicle to ones that I can revive? A bunch of good information is built into that class. I'm really excited, not only because I get to go from North Carolina to California, but I'm just excited to be there. Brandon's incredible. I mean, if you're an Opus customer, you've probably worked with Brandon before, so you just know how great he is. Cool. Timothy, how much are the cables if I already own a Drive Pro? They are $99. They're probably the cheapest cable set we sell. And if you're interested in purchasing them, just reach out to a salesperson, call the sales number, and they'll be happy to get those ordered and sent your way. And then Seek was saying the same thing. And Tony is in. We were doing a last minute URL send over to get Tony in, so glad we could get him. All right, so with my shameless plugs out of the way, one thing that I am going to do, because we have a couple videos throughout this PowerPoint, I'm going to take off my camera just because I want to save some bandwidth to make sure that it comes through clearly as possible. So get that taken care of so you guys don't have to just stare at me this whole time. Oh, come on, you can do it. There it is. Perfect. All right. Hey, Brandon, if you will just give Shane an email address to reach out to, that would be fantastic. How much are the cables again? $99? Correctamundo. And they come with everything to plug into a Tesla and help power your Drive Pro if it needs to be charged. So, getting into the deep of it, we got 3 different things that remote services are going to include. The first one is going to be what we call Garage. Garage is going to be the vehicle's webpage, and it is going to show a lot of information based around the vehicle. It's going to show configuration, alert information, software status. It's also going to show you a large snapshot of information from the vehicle as long as it is awake. The second bit of remote services is going to be my favorite thing, which is called Periscope. And Periscope is a platform that we're going to use to investigate active and recent alerts with relevant data plots. So basically, we're going to be able to take a fault inside of the vehicle and put it up against a data PID, graph it out, and see what kind of issues we are fighting. The third thing is remote connection, right? So we're going to be able to connect to this vehicle from the comfort of our shop. And while it doesn't give us a huge amount of capability at this time, we are seeing that the things that they allow us to do grows every day. So we'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to be looking for when we connect remotely. But really what we're going to be using mainly is Garage and Periscope. Now, the one downfall to these is that it does require a Toolbox subscription. Right, so Toolbox is Tesla's diagnostic software. Currently, it is $165 a day, $500 a month, or $3,000 annually. Now, the one thing I will say is that that monthly subscription that you have when you purchase the Drive Pro from us basically covers the price of the Tesla Toolbox subscription. And we have access to the Toolbox, and we are able to help and aid you through these scannings and these repair plannings and these diagnostics before the vehicle comes in. So get a Drive Pro, you basically get Toolbox with it. So it's definitely something to look into. But we've got Toolbox already, so we are going to want to start the process of engaging in remote services. To do that, we need to have the owner's authorization. And the reason for that is that we need to let the customer know, hey, I want to grab a little bit of information from your vehicle. I know that you were not here, but I'm trying to help you diagnose and get you repaired easily. Now, this is something it reminds me a lot of Ford. Like when you sign into Motorcraft and you try to get some information through connected services, you got to send them an email to begin with. So first you're going to click on owner authorization request. After that, you're going to go to a dashboard. And at the dashboard, you're going to have request owner authorization. When you click on this, it's going to ask you for two things. First thing being the customer email, and the second thing being the VIN. Now, the VIN is pretty self-explanatory, but the customer email is where we see most of these getting denied. And the reason for that is that the customer will tell you an email that they are currently using, but what we need is the email on file from when they made their Tesla account. It has to be the one associated with the Tesla app. And if they give you any other one, and it is case sensitive, so if you accidentally put in a capital letter here when there shouldn't be one, it's going to fail, and it's not going to let you send the request in. Now, the thing at the bottom, the request reason, there's going to be two of them. There's going to be vehicle in service at service center, and the next one is remote diagnosis. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, because all it's going to say is to the customer. You look over here on the right-hand side, rationale from requester, vehicles in service at service center. If you chose remote diagnosis, it's going to say something like, vehicle is getting remotely diagnosed. So once we submit this information, the owner of the vehicle is going to get an email. And as states, just like, hey, review, are you cool? Here's your VIN. Here's the email of the requester. Just to let you know, it expires on this date. When they click review, it will take them to their Tesla mobile app. And that's when they can hit accept and approve. And we're going to see something on our dashboard where it's going to show us approved. So as you can see on this slide, I've got one that says pending, one that says approved, and one that says expired. So the owner's authorization only lasts for a week, but that week starts when you send them the authorization. So let's say you send them the authorization Monday at 9 a.m., but they don't approve it until Tuesday. That 7-day countdown starts at Monday at 9, not when they approve it. So you may think you have another day or two, but you'll be able to at least check on your expiration date from your dashboard. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is Garage. And Garage was something that every vehicle that came in we went straight to their garage page. It's just a one-page website that has a lot of active and past information on the vehicle you're talking about. Now, one thing that is pretty important is that if your vehicle is asleep, which most times it's going to be when you access their garage page, the information that you're going to be looking at is going to be outdated. So on this slide, you can see, hey, this vehicle was asleep for 2 hours. It says, hey, try poking it if you want to interact with it, because if you don't, you're going to see that the last time this vehicle posted data was Monday, April 1st at 11:25, but I'm currently looking at it at 10:12 a.m., April 2nd. So I could be looking at data that was way outdated and trying to infer what I was doing based off of information that wasn't present. So what we're going to do is we're going to poke the vehicle. And by poking the vehicle, we're going to be sending an LTE signal to it that says, hey, wake up. Just for a second, let's connect. Let me get a fresh snapshot from you. And then you could probably go back to sleep afterwards. But if the LTE signal, which these vehicles use AT&T, if it's weak in that area, it may take a while to come back to life. And if it's super weak, you may have to poke the vehicle multiple times. Now, one trick that may help you, and we'll talk about connecting remotely a little bit later, is that if you do connect remotely to the vehicle, the very first task that happens is going to be, get my little pen out here, waking up vehicle. So it's going to have to wake it up before it can get through and actually connect to it. But once you're connected, you're going to see that the vehicle is online. All of the information is going to be updated, and you can start from a fresh slate. Now, from this, just kind of the beginning, this is the heading of the garage page, right? So it's going to tell us stuff like the vehicle's color, which is great to know if you want to order parts like skull caps, mirror caps, painted parts, or you just want to be prepared to watch this vehicle drive on your lot. The other thing that's good to know is that it's going to let you know the OE wheels. So this vehicle came equipped with 19-inch silver wheels. So if my customer is coming in for a tire rotation or flat repair or anything like that, I automatically know that I need to prepare for 19-inch wheels, hop on Tesla's website, see what exact size they are, and I could, build a quote already for them and maybe even get them ordered if they approve it. The one thing that's not really important to us is the autopilot level, but it is also kind of nice to have. So I can see that this one is configured for autopilot level 3 with full self-driving equipped. So this would say something like highway, autopilot, self-driving, or unequipped. Now, the thing about Garage is that there is a lot of information. Some of it will mean more to us than other, and some of it just means nothing. So in the next couple slides, what we're going to do is we're going to work through what's important and then what's kind of like good to know. So starting off with basic. The basic category is going to be directly underneath the heading on the garage page. Birth date. The birth date of the vehicle is very important to us because when we are using wiring diagrams, sometimes they break down to the date by date basis. So in this example, March 28th of 2023, there could be a wiring diagram breakdown that was March 27th to March 29th. So knowing the date that it was built will help us better diagnose it to begin with. Next up, we have the odometer. It's just kind of nice to know where this vehicle is in life. If it's still in warranty, is it out of warranty? Should I prepare for warrant suspension? It's always just good to start with knowing the mileage. And to be honest with you, 75% of your Tesla owners are not going to be able to figure out how to get to an odometer that is not the trip meter. So The next thing we have is gear and speed. This is important because before we do any remote work on these cars, we're going to want to know that they are parked and they are not moving. So right now, this car is in drive and it's moving at 79 miles per hour. I'm not going to get in there and do a gateway reboot because that's going to cause a screen to shut down. And that's the last thing I want to do with somebody driving a car. Just freak them out a little bit more. Why don't you? Next up, we have BMS state. And this is battery management system. And this can say a couple of different things like drive, support, off. But what we are going to pay attention to is if it says alert. Now, if it has an alert listed for the BMS state, we know that we're dealing with a high voltage issue. And we know that we need to prepare our PPE and have the correct technician on it before this vehicle actually comes into the shop. And from that, we can probably tell that the low voltage battery is going to be maybe lower. So they give us battery voltage and battery current of the low voltage battery. Now this vehicle has equipped with a lithium ion 15-volt battery, so that 15.531 is totally normal. But it is definitely something to look at when kind of diagnosing like display issues or graphic anomalies or anything kind of like that. So if we scroll down a little bit, the next thing after basic is going to be job history. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that job history is not always going to be super accurate. The point of job history is to tell you the last time that the vehicle went through an update phase. So the reason I say that it's not always accurate is because the last package that this one shows is NA 2023.44. Whenever you see NA, this is going to stand for North America. So this is actually a navigation update. But looking at the car version, this car just got the most recent software update to version 12, and it doesn't show on the job history tab. So I kind of take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it is nice to know that it shows like the last activity is succeeded. Now, if this says something like failed or hammered, then we know that the software was not able to go through, and that could either be because of an active alert, could be because the service center or the customer canceled it, but it does lead us to investigate a little bit further. And with that, we can also see that that right underneath job history, it's going to show us any active alerts inside of the vehicle at the time. Luckily for this customer, the only alert that they have active is that their washer fluid's a little bit low. Pretty good, I would say. So, let's talk about some other useful information that we'll find from Garage. First one is going to be car configuration. This is important because if you're going to order parts prematurely before seeing the vehicle or just kind of like preparing for the appointment, there are going to be parts in the parts catalog that's going to go, is this all-wheel drive? What battery does this have? What wheels does this have? Does it have a tow package? What kind of 12-volt battery does it have? And the garage page is going to show you all of this. So drivetrain type, like this is an all-wheel drive vehicle. Autopilot type. This is going to be self-driving. It's going to have pay-as-you-go supercharging. 19-inch Apollo tires, or wheels, excuse me, with Continental all-season 19-inch. So now that I know that even if like this customer comes in and they said, hey, I failed state inspection, I failed my safety inspection because of cord showing in my tires. I know exactly what tires, if they want OE tires, that I need to order. The other thing that's pretty important is the 12-volt battery type. These Model 3s and these Model Ys are going to only really have two different battery types. They're going to be a lead acid or they're going to be a lithium ion. But when it comes to the Tesla Model S, there were 4 different 12-volt battery variations between 2012 and 2023. So just understanding which 12-volt lead acid they came with will help you better understand what you need to order if you're dealing with like a lockout tagout or you're dealing with a dead vehicle. The next bit of information that's pretty helpful to us is it's going to show us our driver's assistance system. So this is going to be our ADAS platform. It is going to show us calibration progress of all of our cameras, calibration status, and it's good because if there are values here, that means that those cameras are communicating. So you can see we have main, narrow, and fisheye. That's going to be our triple cam underneath the windshield. We have left pillar, right pillar. That is going to be our two B pillar cameras. Left repeater, you can't see it because there's more data underneath it, but they'll have left repeater, right repeater, which are the two cameras in the fender, and then they'll have rear view, which is the camera in the trunk. And what you can see is it's got its main pitch, which is what we want to verify when we're doing an ADAS scan. It's going to show you the progress of the calibration, which will help us understand if the camera has been installed correctly and if autopilot's ready to be used. And then it's going to have a calibration true or false. And the reason that this helps us out is that if a customer is coming back to us and saying, I'm constantly having autopilot faults, we can kind of look back here and what we would see is an SNA, like a, hey, it's not producing any information for us. We need to step back and kind of look at what the camera fault is. The next one that we use that I would say that I actually have used quite a bit is our high voltage numbering. So first things first, we have our BMS main state. Right now it's in support. And what support means is that, hey, the 12 volt's dying a little bit. I'm going to close contactors and we're going to recharge the 12-volt battery, right? So it's an alternator while the car's sitting still. The BMS HV state is going to be up or down. Up meaning that it's operational and there's no faults. Down meaning that, hey, we can't close contactors. We got a little bit of an issue. We're also able to check on the state of our fast charge contactors from here. We can check on the high voltage isolation resistance, which is not live. It is just the last snapshot that the vehicle was able to take. So 4640 k ohms with the contactors closed, that's in healthy isolation resistance. And then actually underneath this is there's still going to be a bit of more high voltage information, but it's not stuff that we're going to use in like our day-to-day life. And then we still have a lot more information. You got charge port information. You have thermal, security, e-calls, temps, infotainment, tire pressures. I mean, there's a lot of information that is built into the garage page that you can kind of find yourself getting lost and over analyzing. You're kind of just like over processing the amount of information you have. But it's still really cool to learn off. You can find out a lot about the vehicle just from this. So that's kind of why garage will be one of those things that you guys will keep in your pocket just for this remote analysis. Have any questions so far about garage or owner authorization? Doesn't seem so. So let's go to my favorite part of all of this. Periscope. It's actually called a CAN Explorer, CAN Network, CAN Explorer. But they do call it Periscope, and they used to have a couple fun icons that showed you like a periscope, but I wasn't able to find them long enough to add them to the slideshow. But CAN Explorer is a data visualization tool that plots time series CAN data logged historically on the vehicle and stored in Tesla's servers. So what this means is that we can request data logs from the vehicle that are saved in Tesla's servers up to about 35 days. So that means I am able to read and build graphs of data PIDs and active alerts on these vehicles for about a month. That helps us a lot because Tesla's alerts are permanent, which means once they are repaired, they are cleared. So it's not something that you can go in and see historical alerts if they're past like the last 100, because that's when they stop showing us. So if you have a customer that comes in and says, hey, like 3 weeks ago, I forgot to tell you, but my autopilot quit working, and it hasn't happened since. If we hop in Garage or we hop in Toolbox, we may not be able to see that alert because we can only see the past 100 alerts. But using Periscope, we can dig deeper, get to that alert, and we can actually see the environmental issues that was going around at that same time. So, first things first, when you click Periscope, this is what you're going to see. We are going to need to enter in the VIN of the vehicle that we have got owner authorization from. And then we're going to want to set our date range. So CanViewer is automatically going to set a 1 week date range. It's changeable in that little drop down menu over on the right hand side. You can go 1 month, 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour. So you can get as granular as you want, or you can actually select the date boxes themselves and change them to, say your customer said Tuesday the 31st between 4 p.m. and Wednesday the 1st at 2 a.m. I had this one alert. You can make it as granular as you need to. So the first graph that we're going to see is log availability. And this is just letting us know that, hey, there are no logs available for this vehicle for the last 7 days, right? So no one's requested this information. So as of right now, you can't plot anything, you can't check anything. So we need to request logs from the vehicle and from Tesla's server so that we can start building our data points. So we're going to hit request logs over at the top right hand corner, and it's going to bring us a little pop-up. Now the VIN is already going to be put in there and it's not changeable because we're requesting it from this VIN, but we can adjust the date range. You can adjust the now, like the now is always going to be there, but you can adjust how far back or how close you want to get when you're requesting these logs. Once you do find your date range, hit request logs, and it's going to let you know, hey, this could take up to 30 minutes. And to be completely honest with you, it could. Depends on how much data you're trying to request. If you're trying to pull a week's worth of data from any car produced after 2018, it's going to take like 5 to 10 minutes. But if you're trying to go over a week or the car is a bit older, we could see somewhere getting to that 30 minutes. So what you'll do is you'll hit check status at the bottom left-hand corner, and it's going to let you know, hey, we're running progress. And then when it's completed, it will show you, hey, log upload successful for time range 313 to 316, 316, 319, 319 to 320. I've got data logs for all of these. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that well. Sometimes you get these, right? But you don't get these dates, right? So maybe you won't have 313 through 316. Sometimes that happens because the vehicle has gone back to sleep during the request. The server pool from the Tesla servers has timed out. There's a number of different reasons that this could fail. The best thing that I can tell you is just try again. You didn't get 313 through 316? Hop into that log availability graph, request logs again, and just request that time basis. The time range of 3.4 to 3.13, those are already going to be there. So you just need to request those 3 days, and maybe it's going to help you from not timing out in between it. Once those logs are pulled, the graph is going to look a little bit different. So now instead of having just the red rectangle all the way across, we've got manual and urgent log availability. So the manual is going to be what you requested, while the urgent is going to be things that the vehicle requested itself. So that is if like the vehicle is isolating or we're having drive unit failure or anything like that where the car just needs to go, hey, they need to review these logs because there's something going on and it's not good. But now we can tell, like, hey, we actually have data points from this time. So with these logs, now what? What do we do from here? Over on the left-hand side, you're going to have this little screen. And this little screen is going to kind of be like your search bar, your action bar, and a bunch of other things. These little symbols at the top, they don't do much for us, but they do have a good amount of duty, as some would say. I said duty. First one being the calendar. See available logs. This graph, that's what you get when you click that button. Next one up is going to be a help article. So Toolbox does have an article completely written on Can Viewer, and they're going to just kind of walk you through how to request logs, how to refresh the logs, how to make your data PIDs, and how to review all of them. Speaking of refreshing the data PIDs, you do need to refresh anytime you change the date range. So let's say you requested logs for a month, but now you're going to downgrade that to 6 days because you've actually got a specific date where this issue happened. You need to hop over here and hit this little reload button because you want the alerts and the signals to reflect the data range that you're pulling your data values from. So let's say you've put everything into a graph, you got data PIDs, everything, and you want to share this with your customers. You got two options. First option is you can save all of your plots as a PNG file, which is basically a JPEG. So you're actually going to be able to see in them an image of the graph that you just made and kind of be able to put the proof behind the pudding. If an image is not good enough, you can then save it as a CSV and actually put the plot lines and the internal data into an Excel sheet where you could make your own graph, or you could just share the numbers statistically. And then you've got a settings. You know, there are some macros that you can do inside this setting tab that I've never really used, but it's there. So where we want to start is with our alerts. All right, so this tab is going to show us all alerts that were present in that date range. So when we click on it, you're going to see that they're kind of listed out. And underneath each alert, it's going to give you the general description of the alert. But it kind of breaks down into a little bit more than that. So looking at it, we have the alert name, the CPA073 IEC combo shutdown. Basically, this alert's going to say, hey, the combined charging system, it shut down, whether that was user initiated or vehicle initiated. It stopped at some point. The article tab will take you directly to the integrated Toolbox article. That's going to give you a lot more information on what's going. And then the number at the top right-hand corner is going to say, hey, this is how many times this alert has been present in this date range. Now, if we hover over the wrench, it's going to give us the too long didn't read version of the Toolbox article. So it's going to let us know the potential impact, the set condition, and the clear condition of this alert. So basically the set condition is, hey, the charge port ECU detects that the combined charging system charge session was aborted. Once we clear the charging session, this alert's going to clear. Pretty self-explanatory. But it's great to know that when you're trying to decipher whether or not this is one of those things that you want to graph. The other thing that's nice about Periscope is it's going to allow you to filter your alerts. And I tell you to really do filter your alerts to make it easier to understand what you're looking at. So the first thing that you can filter through is your audiences. You can filter through customer, which is going to be any customer facing alerts that your customer could have explained. Let's say that little Miss Betty was like, Well, I drove out of the garage and it told me autopilot's degraded. So I'm going to unclick service and service fix, and I'm going to see exactly what customer facing alert middle of this patty may have. Or I'm looking for a causation. I'm going to deselect everything other than service fix, which is described as a must fix for a service technician, requires rectification. You probably will never just filter by service, but service fix for customer is going to be two of the big ones. And more than likely, if it's me, I'm going to be sorting the alerts. And I will be sorting them chronologically, either newest to oldest or oldest to newest, kind of depending on the situation. It's more of if my customer says, hey, this happened a couple weeks ago, or this happened right before I brought it into you. That's where you're going to see my alerts coming through. After alerts, we have signals, and these are going to be our data pins. And believe me, there's a good amount of data pins. So the best way to kind of go through it is utilizing your search bar. So I like to say, like, think of the responsible ECU. So if I'm dealing with an issue of charging, I'm going to type in PCS, the power conversion system in like Model 3 and Model Y, because I know that holds the inboard charger. So type in PCS, and I get a bunch of charging signals that come in right behind it. And then ECU History, it's not one that I've used very often, but it will show you if a part has been replaced, and it's rewritten a serial number or a part number for the replacement. Honestly, I just haven't really had a need for it, but it's not bad to look at. Like, if the customer comes in and says it was just at Tesla for XYZ and the issue is still there, check the ECU history. Maybe you can see that they changed something and you can go, why did they change a charge port module for an air suspension issue? Reza asks, what kind of scanner do we need to check Tesla remotely? Those one that you introduced or any laptop with the subscribe program? So Reza, if you're looking to have us help you support and kind of walk you through the diagnostic program, just like Brandon said, Drive Pro and Tesla Cable Bundle Kit, which is what we're offering. As far as anything other than that, there is not a scan tool to my knowledge that is able to give you the information that we are able to get from the OE software. So you're going to want to use a laptop that has access to Google Chrome, because everything Tesla is internet based. So as long as you have a good internet connection and an Ethernet port, then you should be able to get to the OE equipment. Now, let's talk about some like real world scenarios, right? First one up, case study number 1, we got a reduced charging rate. This customer had a 2018 Model X, about 80,000 miles on it, almost 81,000 miles. Customer went to go charge their vehicle one day. They're only going to charge at 24 amps. It was a little bit lower than what we expect because this Model X is equipped with the Generation 3 charger, which could charge at 72 amps. Most residential houses, they're not going to charge that high, but that onboard charger has the capacity. So why are we only charging at 24? So this is where these videos kick in. What we're going to do is we're going to look for the alert in our system. So we set our date range, and now we're scrolling through our alerts, right? One of the first ones that I'm going to see is, boost precharge failure. I give it a second, let it pull up its graph. It went ahead and auto-focused to the timeline that we needed to look at, right? So as you can see, at the very top, you have that orange line that's going to have our alert. The CHG A078 boost precharge fail. You have a couple of numbers, and then at the bottom of that, you have charge alert source phase 1, charge alert source phase 2. So we'll take our mouse, we'll hover over one of the data points, and that's where we see what we call cracked alert. So this is going to show us the data inside of our data pin. So the alert type 1 means that the alert was active. If that alert type was 0, that means the alert was not active. Next thing we see is, hey, line voltage. This is the input voltage coming from the charger that we are using. So the charger is coming from 120 volt outlet. We're getting 121.8 volts. That's pretty normal. But then it runs through the boost section of our onboard charger. And we're only gaining at about 10.3 volts when realistically we want to see 170.3 volts coming out of this before we even go to our battery, right? And then this little pesky thing at the bottom is saying, hey, this is coming from the second phase of our onboard charger. But we look a little bit further into our graph, right? And then we say, hey, we've got the same amount of alerts, except for this one is coming from phase 1. So from this graph, I can see, oh, I've got an alert coming from phase 1, and I've got an alert coming from phase 2. So phase 3 of the onboard charger must be working pretty well. So I'm going to hop into the signals, right? And I'm going to, like I said, use the search bar to my advantage. Type in CHG, which is going to be charge. And I'm going to look at the line current that is actually coming in, excuse me, from the master charger. And right now, I can see that this alert is happening just as we start the charge. So you saw that I drug the signal up to the alert. So you can actually start to integrate these graphs. Can I start this again? I think I can. Sorry guys, this is my first time doing these videos, which I actually really like. So searching the signal, charge line current, let it load in. And then if you hit the 6 dots over at the top left-hand corner of that graph, once it populates, you can actually drag it all the way up and stack it with another graph. So I stacked the alert and the signal to see what was happening when this alert first happened. So I can see, all right, we're getting about 10 amps, 11 amps coming in from the charge source. So the next thing I want to look at is I want to check out phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 line current. If anything, I've got alerts coming from phase 1 and phase 2, and I'm seeing about 11 amps. Oh, well, from phase 1, I have 0 amps. So I've got nothing coming in through that. And phase 2, I've got dirty volts or dirty amps coming. But phase 3, it seems like it's the only one that's actually producing any amperage. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cascade all of those alerts. And I'm going to drag them up a little bit. I just kind of want to see at the same time what I'm getting. So I can tell from the third phase that I'm getting almost the same line voltage, or excuse me, line current as what's coming in. But when I drop phase 1 and phase 2 into it, I can see that they are just not communicating. They're not producing any current. So the difference is going to be between stack and overlay. So when you stack them, they're going to conglomerate all of them into one graph. And then when you go into, or excuse me, overlay will conglomerate them into one graph. Stacking is going to put them just kind of like how we have on the screen right now, where we have 4 different graphs in the same timeline. So from this, what this tells me is that phase 1 and phase 2 of the onboard charger is not working. What I know about a Gen 3 charger is that each phase has a fuse. And from what I can tell, fuse 1 and fuse 2 are blown, and they just need to be replaced. Are we determining vehicles to fix based on our customer database? Would Tesla then see the same vehicle errors? I gotta say, I don't know if I understand the question. So we're determining the issues with the vehicles based on our customer database. So being able to kind of review this vehicle's logs for up to 30 days and their charging issues that they were having, we were able to kind of diagnose that I need to order some fuse for this master charger. Tesla does team the same vehicle error, same vehicle errors. So if basically the same software that I'm using, Tesla is using as well. They just have a little bit more information than we do. All right, so case study number 2, we got an external isolation issue. I've got a 2017 Model S, 72,000 miles. This customer states that while they were supercharging, while they were using a DC charger, they had a message that the vehicle may not restart. We hopped on the garage page and we saw, ooh, we got an external isolation fault. Knowing what I know, there are only certain high voltage components that are triggered during supercharging. And one of the first ones is going to be the battery heater, the coolant heater for the battery. So this one's not a cool video like my other ones, but I went ahead and plotted the BMS A142 isolation degradation fault. I could see when the alert was happening. I could have an isolation value and I could see the drop. And then I went ahead and added the signal for the coolant battery heater. And as you can see, battery heater startup, heat check, and then run. And if you look at the same time that the coolant battery heat had started to run, the isolation value started to drop. So we were able to go, hey, more than likely, once this turned off, you can see it turns off here. Isolation values start to rise again. Vehicle was able to be driven at this point. So we were able to go ahead and just order a coolant battery heater. And luckily enough for us, that was the issue. Timothy asked, why are the graphs not labeled? That's a great question, Timothy. And that's one thing I did kind of wish I showed better. So if you double click right here, you can erase all of this text and you can actually label it to your heart's desire. So you could label this isolation while supercharging, or isolation value compared to coolant battery heater. So this is a fully editable section, and you kind of change it around to how you like. But as default, it's going to show you the alert and then the signal. All right, so last case study for us is going to be a body shop support ticket, right? So this customer reached out to me and they said, hey, I had a body shop in my area. 2023 Model 3. Don't have a clue how many miles on it, but they wanted to reach out to me to complete any of the mechanical repairs that it may need, right? It was an accident, and they don't know how long we should expect to have it, or, kind of what parts I need to order. So we went ahead and got customer approval, and then kind of looking through the alerts, I could see like, all right, so we have a buckle issue. We have a front impact sensor that's gone bad, and we have an EDR data area lockout. And basically what that means is that the restraint control module has locked, like a lot of the brands do when airbags have impacted. And then I was like, we may also have a little bit of a charge port MIA issue. We might need to look into that. One of the first things I wanted to plot, though, was that EDR area lockout. Like, I wanted to have just a smidge more information on when the RCM locked. So I could see that it was armed throughout the most recent days. Driver did apply brakes at that point. But we can also see data that's not, super important to us. Unlatched belt buckles. But I could go ahead and tell him from this is that RCM was armed. We need to go ahead and get a new restraint control module for this car. But looking at some of the other data PIDs that didn't have anything to do with the alerts, I was able to go, hey, contactors are setting as close, and they're actually closing. So that means to me that this vehicle is drivable. So go ahead and have them drive it over to you, and we can get everything repaired and then kind of go from there. We're able to just kind of see some of these simple things if we know what to look for. All right. And then the last thing, real quick, to wrap up before we're done for the night, remote connections. So if you guys are familiar with Toolbox, you can connect locally or you can connect remotely. When we do this, we want to make sure that connect remotely is selected. We want to enter in the vehicle's VIN. And once we're hitting connect, we can kind of see what it has to work through before it gets there. Now, there's not a lot that we can do with remote connection, but there is still a good amount of information. Most of this that we can do is going to be infotainment based. It's going to be really strictly dealing with the software or the user interface, but it still does give us a good amount of information. Like we can still go to dashboards, we can go to service tools, and we could see everything like the recent and the active alerts like we would normally when we were connected to the vehicle. And we can see all of the configurations. But there are a few other things that we would want to check remotely if we could. So, first one's probably up is going to be car status. And when you run the car status application, it's going to tell you things like vehicle's not in service mode. We have the HVAC rail on. None of the doors are open. Here's our battery voltage and our UI mode. The other thing that really helps us out too is if we are trying to do a software update, we can run the firmware update progress and actually see where in that download we are. So with this one, it wasn't running an upload, so we're at 0, but we can check a good amount of information from this. And on that cliffhanger, it's really all I've got for you guys. I will say that Periscope is probably the most useful portion of these remote services and can really help you guys when it comes to getting these cars diagnosed before they come in for service, getting parts ordered before they come in for service, and really helping your key to key in your lead time. It also really helps you understand how these cars operate, how the data is supposed to look, and it's really just beneficial over all of it. But questions, comments, concerns is what I'm here for. Would we have access to Sandbox or any articles relating to alerts? So you do have access to the articles relating to the alerts, but you don't really have access to Sandbox. And the reason for that is that Sandbox is one of those applications that takes an alert and then graphs out possible causes for that. And that's more or less going to be something that we see Tesla's diagnostic software, like Tesla's Tesla's internal software being. Can independent garage orders parts from Tesla? Are the PIDs live when using Tesla's factory software? So, answer to the first one is independent garages can order parts from Tesla. They need to fill out an application through Tesla's EPC. If you check Opus's recent webinars, I have a service information webinar that kind of walks how to sign up with an account and then how to actually log in and submit the electronic parts catalog software, or excuse me, application. And the PIDs are not live. They are going to be live until the last data grab from the Tesla server. And then after that, you will have to constantly refresh, and there's going to be probably about a 5 to 10 minute lull on that. Travis asks, at what point do you need the scan tool versus doing functions through the vehicle? It's a great question. Honestly, any vehicle produced before 2018, you're going to need to use Toolbox. Service mode is not very helpful. Anything that has what we call a Tegra processor instead of an Intel processor. And there are still going to be things inside of Toolbox that is beneficial, and the communication process is just a lot easier. So, just one more time, want to run through our April special. We have a $3,000 discount on our Drive Pro Unlimited. Massive sale, $2,995, 24-month subscription. You get access to myself for anything Tesla related. You get access to basically Brandon for any other car ever. Brandon's incredible. But we have, a very large number of dealer trained technicians that are honestly earback call. This is what we do. This is what we get paid for. We love to help you guys, and we love having you guys, kind of pick our brains. Rohit asks, does Garage provide information regarding HV battery cell condition? Great question, and not yet. I do remember where they would show at least module voltage information, but it's not present to us at this time. So it's, it's hopefully going to be one of those things that we see coming in the future. So, well, cool. Guys, if you have any questions about the things that you saw today, any questions about our products, our services, our technicians on the back end, make sure you scan this QR code. It's going to be huge, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys in the future. We got Dave. I'm super stoked to see you at SDX. Gonna hopefully share some of my Mach-E training with you, and you're gonna share some of yours with me. But really excited to see you guys, and you guys all have a great night.